On the 10th of April 2022, I started my own console challenge, a journey to beating every PlayStation 2 game. I've been collecting these games for many years, and one day I said to myself, why am I not playing these? They're gathering around, gathering dust. Games are meant to be played, so that's what I'm gonna do. We've already encountered some epic moments. There's been laughs along the way.
Oh no. Ah! It's actually pretty good.
And of course, a few tears. But one thing's for sure, we're gonna beat every PS2 game. It's time for game number 8, SpongeBob SquarePants, Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. Not too long ago on the challenge, we did our first movie tie-in game, Robots. But besides movie tie-in games, there was also TV show tie-ins for kids. Loads of them, but the big one that stood out was Nickelodeon on the PS2. They pushed out a lot of different platformer games based on their IPs and characters, but obviously their biggest marketing success, and obviously the character that was going to get the most treatment on the PS2, was the yellow sponge himself, SpongeBob SquarePants. Battle for Bikini Bottom is a nostalgic trip for a lot of people. You've got the movie tie-in game, and then there were also Nicktoons games with SpongeBob usually used as the pull and the grab for most of these titles, at least in Europe. But PAL, we used to have like SpongeBob and Friends, SpongeBob and Nicktoons. That's just how it worked. Including the Nicktoons titles with SpongeBob's name in it, there are 11 PS2 games in total, and we've got to start with the first one. I've never played any of these, and it's going to be Revenge of the Flying Dutchman being my first SpongeBob title. Let's check it out. So, as the game starts up on this, it's a really nice little interactable menu rather than a normal menu screen you would expect. So yeah, you can walk around as SpongeBob and pick what and where to go. There's different categories as you expect, the old options, the extras, and then obviously the one thing we're trying to find is the new game, and that's just what we go and do. It starts like a normal TV episode of SpongeBob. He's very worried, he's just had a nightmare that he thinks the Krusty Krab is going to be closed. And obviously, he's not too worried because it's just a dream. But it's nice. It's like a nice little in-game cutscene. You feel like you're watching a TV episode. They do a nice thing with the engine. And we're just hearing SpongeBob plan his day like he would and just trying to do it. And also, the extra lives are his SquarePants. And we finally have dressed SpongeBob for the game. Let's get cracking. The plot continues for this episode or this video game. SpongeBob talks to Gary. Gary has a different dream. Supposedly, it's a lot worse than what might be going on. But SpongeBob's like, don't worry about that. I'm just going to get your favorite fetching stick. And there's a few more little tutorial things teaching you how to pick up items and interact with stuff. That's the basic point of this, like, house introduction. And yeah, we get Gary's favorite fetching stick. I'm sure he really likes this. And then, yeah, some quick and cute, more lore dump carries on, really. While Gary is off to recover his fetching stick, he recovers something a lot bigger, actually. Yeah, somewhere out there in the yard, he finds this, a giant-ass chest. SpongeBob clearly is not the most avid reader, as he tries to verbally get the warning that's written on the trunk, but as Gary tries to warn him to stop, does SpongeBob really care? Nah, we got to see what's inside, don't we? And that's just what SpongeBob does. And after a few goofy karate chops, we get to the bottom of it. SpongeBob's pretty happy about this muddy bottle, and what do you do with a muddy bottle? The first thing you get with it? You always wipe it and rub it clean, and as he does, boom! Oh dear, the title character, the Flying Dutchman, turns up. Quite the antagonist of the SpongeBob franchise, and yeah, here in particular, he's pretty angry that he's been cooped up in a bottle for so long and is glad to get out. SpongeBob would rather him going back inside his little prison, But come on, it's a bit late now. He snaps a bottle, destroys it, and he's free to enact his revenge. It is kind of weird that the Flying Dutchman is a bit angry that someone has found his buried treasure when he was also buried with his buried treasure. But whatever the reason, he has a plan and he has a rule book set out for this exact scenario. And anyone that does accidentally find his treasure must be cursed and serve his crew for all time. Well, SpongeBob, I'm afraid you know the rules. You're going to have to go with the Flying Dutchman now and serve him for eternity. But of course, SpongeBob, in a last-ditch effort and panics, grasses up his poor little snail, Gary. Gary, you found it. It's clearly your fault. And the Dutchman's like, well, that's a better deal. Hell, I much prefer this snail over than this sponge. So he gladly offers the, the double cross grass act that SpongeBob has just performed. So yeah, it looks like Gary's gone for good. And the Dutchman's going to come and pick Gary up very soon after he's planned his crew and planned his ship. Oh dear, SpongeBob. I don't know what you're going to do in this situation, but looks like Gary, your eternal pet, is now screwed. Oh, SpongeBob. And that's where we, the player, come in to help. We're going to try and find a way to prevent Gary from becoming the Flying Dutchman's cursed crew. Don't know how, but SpongeBob thinks he can come up with something. So after a little exploring around the house, messing around with the platform mechanics, there's a few little funny interactables and there's a few doubloon coins you can collect. I go outside. It's time to see what's going on in Bikini Bottom. But, oh no. Yeah, another disc read problem happens. It's only just in the last game of Pro Evolution Soccer this happened. And it happens again. This time, it's another bad hang. It just doesn't do anything. So, I have to once again restart the game and start from scratch. The curse of real hardware, huh? So, I get to the point where we just had the game freeze, and luckily, this game has a save anywhere option. And I won't lie to you, thank goodness this game did have this feature. It is quite a problem, I will say, just from the get-go, of how bad this game was for disc read issues. Anyway, I try and leave again. And nothing. Once again, the game was hanging and not loading from this. So obviously I was starting going, is there a disc problem? Is my console actually on the... It actually has a problem. Like I said in the Pro Evolution Soccer video, I just changed the laser fresh for this challenge. So this shouldn't have been an evident problem, but it was still hanging. What the heck was going on? So when you load a game from SpongeBob, it just loads in the house. Lucky about that 3-4 minute beginning cutscene. And I try again, brute forcing it just to try and load. And it still isn't doing anything. So now, after 3 times attempting it, clearly something is amiss. Something clearly is wrong with this disc, in my first opinion. So I'm at a loss, and I'm very concerned that this could be the first game I have to ditch and come back to. Well, funnily enough, I had a backup disc. I have an obscure amount of loose disc-only games. I bought it from, like, a final sale at an old used game shop, and amongst them, there was a copy of SpongeBob the Flying Dutchman, disc-only. So, at a loss and what to do, I go, screw it. I'll try the second disc. It was actually not in as good condition as the one I had in my physical collection, but at this point, I was desperate. So, we booted the disc up that I had on backup. I then leave the door, and suddenly something different finally happens for once. I was pretty shocked. It actually started to load. I thought, oh, it really was a disc problem. The disc read issue must have been the issue. So thank goodness I could finally enjoy SpongeBob and try and understand the game. Oh, jeez, it really was a sense of relief that we didn't have to stop the challenge here on this game. So the point of this SpongeBob game is to try and prevent the Flying Dutchman from taking Gary. And to do this, we're going to be collecting letters for SpongeBob. These letters are all hidden behind different goals and different tasks. During the game, you'll meet old characters from the show. They have tasks as well as there's some obscure ones as well, all listed on a pause menu. The point of these are
Oh, letter.
letters that you need to collect. You can't. These are not optionals like Kong letters in the Super Nintendo Donkey Kong games. You need to collect all these letters, and it then leads to a mini game where you find a treasure, which is the treasure that will be used to take on the Flying Dutchman. So this is the whole point of the game. Collecting letters, getting a treasure of the zone, going to the next zone. But besides the abilities of jumping, attacking, high jumping, belly flopping, there are a set of contextual ability outfits in the game. We can't complete this hook puzzle without the fishing gear outfit, and this is what the tutorial on the first level teaches you, just that, these changing room tents. This is where you can change in between various costumes. You're able to use the fishing gear outfit from the beginning of the game, but there are other outfits you can use that will be used to solve different puzzles. So at the moment, with fishing gear, we're able to collect jellyfish now and use the hook mechanic. Jellyfish is actually a collectible in this game, so to keep that in mind while playing. So the first stage is pretty simple. As explained, I'm able to go around and get every letter to spell SpongeBob, and it loads onto that bonus area as mentioned earlier on to get the first treasure. Getting all the letters and getting the treasure also means we get a cutscene every time, whatever the Flying Dutchman's up to. This time around, we've got all the letters for Bikini Bottom, and he's decided to finally come back and do what he said, and brainwash, hypnotize, and take poor Gary. Well, SpongeBob is not too happy and will seek revenge on the evil captain for doing so. But what worried me more was the game threw me back in the goddamn house, which is giving me loading problems.
Oh, God.
Oh boy, this was great. Time to save the game and hope the game frickin' loaded. Luckily, we actually are able to get into the overworld pretty easily, and we walk about and just getting our bearings of the area. We've done all the letter collecting now, so what's next? And we notice that Squidward's outside, so talking to him, we find out that there's something going on in the Krusty Krab, so that's the next goal. To go to the Krusty Krab and, I guess, move the plot on and the game on. Whatever's going on, that's our next important goal. By race Squidward to the Krusty Krab, I mean just simply get there yourself. He walks very slowly, and I think it's nearly impossible to lose this unless you purposely throw it. Anyway, I get to the Krusty Krab, and it doesn't load. The loading issue strikes again. I'm a stubborn kind of guy, so I think, you know what? Screw it. Wipe the disc, boot the game up again, and try again. So I walk to the Krusty Krab, and it doesn't load again. Third time's the charm though, right? This is the one. So look at me. I even tried to sneak up on the loading screen because that's going to work. I try and go in again, and nah. I start questioning myself. We can't do this. It's impossible. I don't think I'm going to be able to beat this game. So for once, I consult
SpongeBob
Google,
SquarePants
and I actually find something out interesting. According to the cutting room floor, the reason for the loading glitch in PS2 version was that Sony had a policy about load times due to this. Big Sky used a trick to shorten them. However, later PS2 models made this trick incompatible. Due to this, early PS2 models and emulate... Oh my god, I can't play it on my... it doesn't work on Slims. I've got like a late game Slim with a mod in it. I need to buy an old PlayStation for this game. There you have it. I just realized this while I was streaming, and yes, this game only runs on fat PS2s if you're using real hardware. Because of this, I then started looking into it more after the stream. There's actually an incompatibility list for slim PS2 models with certain PS2 games. So, take this into account and look into it yourself for the research. There is a few Wikipedia pages about it. But yes, you've got to be careful with the hardware. I luckily had a backup PS2 while streaming. This old black Sony model you're seeing here. But this, I knew had laser disc issues, so even while we were playing the rest of this game, I knew I was going to have a hard, rough time with this. And to those eagle-eyed people out there, you may notice that I now have in my possession my childhood fat silver PS2. We've got the Tower of Power. Both the consoles are there if this ever happens again. So with rejoiceful cheers and after a battle and a half with tech, I finally saw a very glorious picture, and that was the loading picture. It took so long to get to this point. It felt like we could have done this in about 20 minutes, the gameplay up to this point, but I've spent an hour battling tech. Still, don't worry, tech issues do not take any consideration into my overview of this game. It's my own fault with the stuff that was going on, and it was my own fault that I continued playing on the faulty hardware that was my dodgy, fat PS2 with some weird disc read issues. Still, we're in the Krusty Krab. The Krusty Krab is suffering from not earning enough money, so they're going to have to close it down, and Mr. Krabs goes, "You might as well go home, boys. Tough." And Squidward's just like, "Okay, I'm out. See ya." So we've got to deal with it. We've got to deal with the Krusty Krab struggling. And after a little talk with Mr. Krabs on a one-to-one basis, he gets an idea. He gets a fabulous idea that the best way about it is to get the Krabby Patties out more to the people because they're not leaving their homes. And this is basically this is how the game works. Obviously now, because of this, we're going to be able to get our progression item, which is this time a bus ticket to go downtown and go to the new area to get more SpongeBob letters and, of course, to try and beat this game. So now we have a quick travel point at the bus stop to go to downtown, and Mr. Krabs is already setting up his next business enterprise. We are going to be helping him with his new venture, which is delivering Krabby Patties on foot to the paying customers. See, one of the main gimmicks of this next area is this delivery system where we're going to be delivering loads of Krabby Patties. It's a bit tedious, actually, to be honest. This one, you have to deliver to the right house, and we had to go to number 17, and you start in the 90s, so yeah, it's quite the walk. Eventually, you deliver the patties, and you do this several more times during the course of this stage. Apart from downtown, though, there's also the construction site area, and earlier on in the game, we heard that Patrick was going to go see what's going on at the construction site. Well, it seems that the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy fandom has well and truly come over into this part of town, as Patrick has saved up all his tokens to become Barnacle Boy. But with every Barnacle Boy, we need a Mermaid Man, and SpongeBob obviously wants to play the role. Well, funny enough, Patrick got both costumes, and SpongeBob is willing to wear it as long as you can feed Patrick. And obviously, hey, this is the delivery mechanic of this stage. So once we give Patrick a lovely, juicy Krabby Patty, he gladly lets us have the costume. Now, the Mermaid Man power-up, because as I said earlier on, there's like several costumes. Mermaid Man is one of the new costumes we unlock from this stage. The main gimmick and mechanic behind this outfit is the ability to throw a projectile. It's used in some puzzles. It's mainly used on this stage for like these burning hot rivets, like because you can't touch or you go near them. You'll see them in a minute, but yeah, this is the main stick mechanic of this, being able to throw and cool down things and just attack things from a further distance. It does have a really janky hitbox, so I will say that you'll notice, not maybe this one, but this second one, there's no like auto aim or lock on, at least from what I didn't experience. And yeah, you just got to try and juggle that sweet spot to hit the frickin' bolts sometimes and progress. But yeah, just a little bit of a grievance I had while using that. But the other area you'll be doing is this high-rise area, and I'm not going to lie, the platforming here is really awkward. It's obviously with a 3D platformer and you go down a 2D perspective, but there's still like a 3D plane to it. Some games do it well. I think these early, 6th gen platformers wanted to experiment with this kind of platforming, but it's really hit and miss where like you're trying to aim for these skinny platforms and other aspects of it. Like here again, like just trying to get to points and just missing it gets a little bit annoying. But hey, this is what platformer design was like back then, so you get used to it. Nearing the end, though, I was very confused because I'd done all the goals except one where I had to help Sandy clean up the area, but Sandy isn't here. So after a little while, I realized that I had to leave this area and come back to it. We were done for now. Returning to town seems to be the right thing, though, as when we do go back to Bikini Bottom, we are treated to another cutscene. This time around, now that old Mr. Krabs has earned his fabulous amount of money from doing all those burger deliveries in downtown. Yep, the Flying Dutchman seems he wants another crew member, and the person on his radar is gonna be Mr. Krabs. How do you bait out Mr. Krabs and seduce him? Well, with the power of money. So, yep, off Mr. Krabs goes as well. Two of SpongeBob's friends now under the control of the Flying Dutchman. Meanwhile, we also discover that Plankton is up to his no good tricks. He is using a Robo Crabs to trick poor Patrick into basically intercepting the Krabby Patty deliveries and then delivering Chum Bucket deliveries. But obviously, the disguise works well enough to fool poor SpongeBob and Patrick into thinking it's Mr. Krabs. But with their innocent thinking and sometimes stupid nature, Plankton Robo goes overwired and blows up due to just everything SpongeBob and Patrick have done. And yeah, obviously now Plankton is pretty annoyed and vexed that his plan has been foiled. But then again, he's not too bothered about because he reveals that he's been working on another project. If Plankton can't earn the money from Krabby Patties, he's gonna open up his own theme park, Chum World. Oh, that'll teach him. So yeah, while this is all going on, our evil mastermind Plankton is also working on his own scheme that will we deal with? Who knows? But yep, Chum World is opening up, but he's not bothered about it right now. He's off to Jellyfish Fields in the meantime. But this part of the game has a load of weird chain of events going on. There's a lot of characters all kind of grouped into one big, like, cluster of progression. Squidward is also now outside selling all of his possessions because obviously he's out of a job, he needs to pay the bills, and he's doing a yard sale. But he is reading, of all things, a convenient way of how to defeat evil spirits book. Well, we want to stick our nose into that and work out exactly what's going on. And with a little sneaky, we are able to dive in. Now, the weird thing is, there was a tooltip at the beginning of the game that kind of explained this, but just to reconfirm to the player, really, and the people enjoying this game, yeah, the chapter about defeating an evil spirit, is, especially the Flying Dutchman, is we need to find the treasures that were to do with his past. Then, with that, we'll be able to defeat him. Just a bit of confirmation, and in a way, we've been told there's 7 of them, not 7 Dragon Balls, 7 evil treasures this time. But if you thought you've seen enough characters for this section, well, fear not, because after we read the book, Sandy comes crashing in as well. I mean, you do buy this beehive from Squidward and his yard sale. SpongeBob thinks the beehive is a giant acorn, so hey, at least we've got a gift for Sandy when we eventually do meet up with her finally. And I mean, we've been looking for Sandy everywhere, so this is where she's been hiding the whole time, around the back of our goddamn house. As I said before, though, like, the chain of events are really weird during this one bit of the chapter. Instead of going to our house at the moment, she wants us to do a karate match. It's a thing that SpongeBob and Sandy do quite infamously in the cartoon show, if you've never seen it. And yeah, we're given this mini game where we're learning how to karate chop or do this new combo action that basically we do when wearing the karate gear. And then we have to obviously beat Sandy at destroying so many objects in time. It's, like I said, it's all a bit jarring to say the least, but it's a nice little fun experience at the same time. It's just all of this this all happens within the course of like 10-15 minutes, so you get a bit lost. But we win the game against Sandy, we win against the karate match, and that's the most important part. And I think this is how you trigger Sandy's scenes anyway, so it all needs to be done. And now finally, because we've done this, Sandy feels like she's great, she's achieved something, she needs a break, she's gonna go back home now. And this finally unlocks the next stage we need to go to. But my goodness, what like a weird chain of events, huh? It definitely confused me. I'm glad I eventually got to this point, but you need to do very specific interactions and talk to people, and you need to know to leave a level before completing it. It's all as a completionist and a platformer guy myself, I was a little bit bewildered, but that's all. Sandy's house, if you've seen the show, you know this big underwater garden area. Sandy's a squirrel, a land mammal. How the hell does she survive underwater and live underwater? The whole stick of Sandy is she has her own little tree house underwater that's protected. Anyone that visits her has to be careful not to dehydrate or, dry out. But there's a leakage issue during our visit here, and obviously we're going to help her out with a leak issue and other things. Just enough of a plot device that cleverly is explained actually to make SpongeBob be able to interact here without using his water suit. Every stage has a gimmick. The gimmick on this one is that Sandy's house obviously does have the leaks, and conveniently the only way to block it is that the acorns from her tree will be used to plug up these holes. The hitboxes on these holes are slightly annoying. You do eventually get there. You just gotta get either the right angle or the right jump peak, but eventually all the acorns plug up. But that's one of the gimmicks. The other gimmick is, remember that beehive I mentioned earlier, which SpongeBob thinks is a really cool humming acorn? Well, he gives it to Sandy as a lovely gift. The weird thing is that Sandy doesn't seem to realize it's a beehive itself, though. So, yeah. And she's a really smart character, I thought, in the series. Anyway, you give her the beehive, and then the other mechanic, apart from doing all the collectible stuff like coins and finding random letters, is that, yeah, there's a bee outbreak in her tree. There's actually not as many areas as other sections of the SpongeBob game. This is the treetop area, the only other big main area of Sandy's house. And yeah, you catch the bees that have all broken out, you can see buzzing around, and you destroy the beehive. And then that's it. This is a very simple level, actually, amongst the others. Unlike the downtown area, we're able to find one of the Flying Dutchman's secret treasures. And then, obviously, sadly, we also lose another one of SpongeBob's friends. This time around, Squidward, well, actually questions, why are you kidnapping us? We're not the ones that actually initiated the crew, like this crew curse that Gary's suffering with. But, hey, the Flying Dutchman's greedy. He just wants all these crew members because his crew members suck. And with that explanation, beloved Squidward is stolen away, and we are lost another character. Guess we really need to work out just how we're going to save all these guys from this evil, evil curse. So it took me a while working out where I next had to go, and after walking around everywhere, because there's Chum World or Jellyfish Fields, I eventually, finally spotted that this jellyfish had the damn ticket all along. I don't know how long this jellyfish was here for. I think usually you complete a level, then you get a ticket to another level. So I'm assuming that this game only triggers this jellyfish once you've done it all. So, yeah, luckily, we do have another place to go to next. Otherwise, I was at a loss of what to do after getting Squidward kidnapped. I do a terrible job of getting the ticket, but that doesn't matter. We are on to our next level, Jellyfish Fields, and I would say that this is probably the biggest and most, complex level in platforming and collecting. As I've also said, every stage has a gimmick. The main gimmick on this one is we're in Jellyfish Fields, so there's obviously going to be a jellyfishing competition. This stage will get us our final costume upgrade, basically, costume ability. But the task of this level is to collect 100 jellyfish total, though, when the game finishes the cutscene. So I don't believe there's enough jellyfish on this stage just to get this item in particular. You've had to been collecting jellyfish on other stages too, so you've got to keep note of that. Yeah, this game's a little bit sneaky while you've been collecting or maybe ignoring jellyfish. So hopefully we can work our way up the jellyfishing competition and get this beloved reef blower, which is the goal of the stage, really, including getting all the letters as well. But the reef blower is a super important item. Some other highlights is that Patrick is back, not being a villain for Plankton anymore, but has decided to eat one of the delicious square thingies. So we give him the old Heimlich maneuver, get that out of his cavity, and try and get it before he eats it again. Yeah, Patrick does still wants to eat those delicious square thingies. Yeah, that's another one of the letters you need to get on this stage. But definitely one of the most testing challenges of this stage is riding the white jellyfish. Not only does it go on for ages and is slow, but One of my pet peeves of platforming is when you jump and your character doesn't give a shadow on platforms, so it's kind of like a blind, invisible jump. SpongeBob does give off a shadow, but it doesn't animate on this jellyfish. And if you fall off during this really long, dragged out Ride the White Jellyfish stage, you have to do it again. Yeah, this stage section took me a while. I mean, I think it took me 3, 4 attempts, and then eventually I got it right. Learning about every jump you had to jump over, keeping yourself balanced. But I have to say that this one in particular I thought was quite the challenge, and I can imagine kids back in the day were super frustrated with this one. Like, there was a lot asking for someone to do all the platforming, but once you get to the end of this, you do get the coveted letter that you need to beat this stage. And this is a required challenge, remember.
Holy crap. What a long.
And remember how I said it's always weird trying to find where the next ticket is to go to the next area? Well, luckily, good old Plankton is randomly in Jellyfish Fields, and as SpongeBob tries to ask and beg to want to go to Chum World, Plankton refuses, but like every good, silly antagonist, he tells us that all of his clowns are carrying the tickets, and they will never give a ticket to SpongeBob. But luckily, one of the clowns is missing in Jellyfish Fields. I wonder what that could possibly mean for us.
Defeat the clown for the Chum World pass.
But going back on the main gimmick of the stage, once you have gone and gathered 100 jellyfish, which will take you a little while, and like I said, this is probably why it's one of the more longer dragged out stages, especially if you have to backtrack and get jellyfish, you eventually do get the reef blower. What does the reef blower's gimmick do? Well, apart from absolutely scare all this guy's poor little snails, it does do something else as well. It simply just blows a gust of air around and you basically corral up the snails again. Rusty is super happy and you get the final letter of the stage. And yeah, time to get the next treasure to fight on the Flying Dutchman. I actually got very lucky actually during the treasure hunting stage because I completely forgot that I was meant to go find Plankton's clown for like the spare ticket to go to Chum World. And look, I saw him over there because I was like, oh, thank goodness, maybe I could do 2 birds with 1 stone here. So yeah, I decided to approach the Plankton clown and see if I'm able to get the ticket off of it. Clown will only give the ticket if we defeat him in battle, so that's what I attempt to do. During the treasure hunting section, SpongeBob loses a lot of abilities, and I'm always wondering how the hell I can take him on. But I boldly do a belly flop on him, and the game registers it as an attack, so thank goodness. Not only was I able to wrap up the stage, I was able to get this Chum World ticket at the same time, and we wouldn't have to backtrack to this stage, especially because this area is actually quite far into the back end of the level. So yeah, great. And with Treasure Free in our mighty clutches, we were getting closer and closer to taking on the evil Flying Dutchman. And if you're wondering who gets kidnapped after we find this next treasure, it's time for Patrick. But Patrick's all sad and lonely. He can't seem to find anyone, obviously because SpongeBob's running around doing and helping people to try and get all these parts of the Flying Dutchman. Also, everyone else is getting kidnapped. And as Patrick gets encountered by the Flying Dutchman, he's trying to hypnotize him, but Patrick ain't got time for that. He's just like, just take me with you, damn it. I want friends. I want to be with people. It's actually pretty funny. So yeah, the Flying Dutchman's like, all right, yeah, just come along. Fine by me. As we get chucked back into the overworld again, one of SpongeBob's more acquaintances than friends is now in town. Since more people are getting kidnapped, we need to have more friends, I guess, to talk to. Larry the Lobster is here, and he has the next ticket to Goo Lagoon. But once again, you need to do something. This time, he wants 50 jellyfish. Yes, you need to collect 150 jellyfish in this game. 100 for the reef blower and 50 for this ticket. So yeah, the game asks you to collect quite a few of them, so you got to be on your toes and make sure to collect those jellyfish. We could go to Chum World now, but with our unlocked new abilities, I also wanted to go around areas and collect the jellyfish. But also, additionally, we can now fully wrap up downtown. There's been a long time since we've been able to come back here and finish it up. But with our beloved reef blow ability, we now can do the take out the trash mission that I was very confused about. Obviously, this is the point of this mission. We can't do it until we blow these trash balls down into the chute for Sandy. But it's not a hard one. It's just, pushing around balls with the physics of the wind, getting them down the tube. Sandy's pretty happy, and this is it. We finally get that last coveted letter of the downtown stage. And also with that, we get the fourth treasure we needed against the Flying Dutchman. Oh yes. Things are going up. Also, because we've helped Sandy out, it's no surprise that it's poor Sandy's turn to get kidnapped by the Dutchman. She's usually good at defending herself and is about to karate chop him in the ass, but he quickly does the old switcheroo, pulls out a beloved golden acorn to entice her, and once again, another friend has been kidnapped by the Flying Dutchman. We're losing friends left, right, and center now. And as I'm waiting for the next stage to load and we go on to Chum World, something annoying happens. It hasn't happened for a long time since we were using my backup PS2. The game refuses to load and does this weird thing where it goes straight back to the browser section. I was so annoyed with myself, and I was so lapsed with not saving. These things happen. Oh well. Let's just try and lick our wounds and get back to where we just were. It was quite a harsh setback. It takes me half an hour to get me back to this point. It really is such a shame, but these things happen. And luckily, the loading issue this time on my system gets past the point where it froze. But once again, I'm not going to judge the game too much. It's problems with my hardware. But I have a theory that I think it's to do with SpongeBob's house, because after this cutscene, you're forced in to his location again. So I'm thinking there's something up with this in particular when it comes to loading. Could be just me, though. With the dramas behind us, we had that ticket to go to Chum World, and that's just what we'll do. This is actually a really nice little area. Think of it like the theme park kind of goofy stages. There's actually like a load of cool little sideshow games you need to do to get the SpongeBob letters. Stuff like, like throw all these balls in like the hoops basketball thing. I really like the little mini golf thing as well. With the reef blower, you're going to be pushing this like ball physics thing around the entire stage. It's a little bit challenging because you've got to watch out that you don't die and lose all your lives. But that's a really fun one. And then there's another little sideshow game where you have to eventually pop this giant bodybuilder balloon. So besides the normal collect X amount of this, do X amount of these things, you've got some fun little sideshow distractions, pretty much. But there's also like this big top circus tent, which requires you to slowly climb up the platform after platform. And if you fall down, you fall down. You need to go up again, so you've got to be really cautious. This swing bit can be a bit annoying. Just obviously take your time. Precision jumps, that's what I did. I've played enough janky platformers not to get caught out on these kind of scenarios. I think I fell down once, but I recovered. The only scary thing was this final mechanic here, this cannon. Getting to that letter, I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? But I think the devs kindly left that kind of target there that you can see. I just aimed at that shot, and boom, got the letter. Thank goodness for that, eh? This is one of those weird stages like downtown, though, where one of the final objectives can't actually be done yet, which threw me off again. It was very weird, but we can't fully complete Chum World, so we'll move on to Goo Lagoon. This fine plankton isn't spawning yet, so we might as well move on to the other stage. The only other location we go to is Goo Lagoon now, and hopefully you collected the extra jellyfish, not only the 100 from the Jellyfish Fields quest, but now the 50 for this quest. It's both main quest related. You need to do this to progress the game. Once you have 50 more jellyfish, we talk to Larry, flex that we've got some delicious jellyfish that he wants, and we get the tickets to get to Goo Lagoon, the final location before getting to the Flying Dutchman. Goo Lagoon is the clever in-joke that we're under sea and we're by a beach at the sea. It's a tar pit, basically. It's the only other dense liquid that can sink at the bottom. During this, we're going to be finding dollars. They're very important for the quest line, and also talking to Larry the Lobster throughout the level to push him to the final end point that we're going to be meeting up with him. You'll see Larry a few times. SpongeBob winds him up because obviously he's wearing this wrestling belt that has one of the SpongeBob letters inside it, and we finally need to get that lovely letter wedged and in our collection. And if you're wondering the main gimmicks of this stage, one of them is lighting up the top of this lighthouse. We pull switches at the bottom of it, and then as you do that, you need to climb up once again an awkward platformer section. There's a lot of like skinny platforms we're gonna have to avoid, and like there's a load of annoying aspects as well that could easily knock you off the tall tower to make you climb all the way up again. But with enough persistence and skill, eventually you should reach the top of the top half of the lighthouse. We need to still do the second half though in the top of the tower. The second half's a lot fairer. You don't really have to worry too much about skinny platforms. It's just more of a leisurely climb, actually. Once you do get to the peak here and get one of the first letters, you then are tasked with having to hop along these jellyfish. Once again, my pet peeve is that you don't really see where you're landing on these, so it can be a bit awkward. Luckily, they don't move around too much, so it's just a bit of persistent and copy and paste jumping sequences, and eventually get the other letter up here, and you've completed the lighthouse section. But there is one other section we need to do before we meet up with Larry. Now, the other gimmicky section of this is you should have been collecting all those sand dollars throughout the level, because this port has a bottle they are freely selling to capture the Flying Dutchman. With that, not only do you buy it, you're now able to access the seaport. Also, he mentions that the lighthouse is now on, so you can go there. So I believe you have to do lighthouse as well before doing the section. But as you get to the letter at the end of this section, well, you can see that there is a boat coming on in with the delivery. But, yep, our good old friend, the Flying Dutchman, does not want this to go ahead. Oh, no, sorry. And, well, what do we do in this scenario? If you're, well, quite the Crash Bandicoot fan, you can probably see the writing on the wall when you play a platformer like this. Yep, it's time to run away from the boat before it gets to us. It's a pretty simple thing. You just have to slowly run through the level. Don't fall in the water because it's an insta-kill. And just constantly jump, weave, and get to the exit of the stage. But of course, we never got that letter in that cutscene, did we? So when you go back in again, the stage is now obviously completely destroyed. And you now have to do a way more awkward platforming section, slowly getting to that lone, innocent letter that's been stuck in the middle of this destroyed scenery. It's quite an interesting and long drawn out section. You definitely need to be on your toes. Falling through the water can give you some really annoying checkpoints. And not only that, when you get the letter, you then need to backtrack through the level again. So you have to do this section quite a few times. Maybe it's a bit repetitive and a bit annoying, but once you've done it, we just need to go find Larry now. And Larry's challenge is a challenge we've been introduced to before. It's the classic sandy fight, but this time around with Larry. He's got a much bigger hitbox, so he's able to break the blocks quicker. So yeah, you just got to take him on for a minute and just beat him better than obviously he does. The issue with this more than anything is just how the random spawns of the crates occur. So if you're really unlucky, sometimes a big bunch of like crates or barrels will spawn right on top of him, like here. So he'll like seize a load of big hits. So yeah, it can be a little bit annoying, but it's nothing too much as long as you're on your toes and you keep hitting those sweet, sweet barrels. And not too long after that, Larry admits defeat once we do beat him, and we get that final letter for Goo Lagoon. That is another treasure under our hats. We haven't got many more to go, and we only got to really return to Chum World now. While we do collect our fifth treasure, which is a very lovely looking corset, we are then treated to another cutscene, but this time it's not a friend getting kidnapped, it's the Flying Dutchman attempting to capture SpongeBob. But luckily we've been collecting those treasures on the way, and luckily we read that How to Stop Evil Curses book. Because with the power of the Flying Dutchman's treasures, we are immune to his mind control. All we need to do now is to find the other pieces of the treasure and save our friends. We're on to you now, Flying Dutchman. You haven't got long left. To live? To stay around. Yeah, that's better. To stay around. And I don't know why they do this, but like a quick return to Chum World, we see Plankton has spawned in now, so we can get the letter. We couldn't get it before. It now takes like a couple of cutscenes and sections to get the final letter to get the treasure for this stage. You might notice, why did it take 15 minutes to get this treasure? To save you showing you the details, load issue after load issue happened. Because after this treasure, a cutscene occurs where the Flying Dutchman is now really worried about SpongeBob finding all his treasures, so attacks his house. After this cutscene, we load into his house again, and my theory is, and I still believe it, is that the loading issues are all to do with loading inside his house. So constantly saving is what I have to do to try and stop this really annoying bug I kept having. So 6 treasures down, 1 to go. Where do we have to go? Well, conveniently, a cannon from the Flying Dutchman ship has stayed intact and hit the ground. I guess we've found our way to literally shoot over to the final stage. Now, the final stage is the Flying Dutchman's graveyard. Oh, poor SpongeBob is already pretty scared, freaking out, but we've got to do it, SpongeBob. All your friends are brainwashed, and it's only up to you now to try and save them all. And with a little pep talk from the narrator, I think SpongeBob's ready to go. Now, the devs definitely followed the cliche, how do you design a final level design, because it's the classic lava. I don't know, I mean, you tell me a platform that doesn't have lava in the final few stages to signify, ooh, this is the worst areas. But you want to know what the gimmick is of this stage, I can imagine. Well, here it goes.
Who goes there? Be ye here to steal my booty?
I have no interest in touching your booty.
To make matters worse, someone grabbed my booty. Aren't you the one who's been digging around in my booty? It was probably the Dutchman again. His booty is bigger than anyone's, but he still comes out here to get his hands on even more. He just can't get enough booty.
Will you let me use your cannon if I bring you some fresh booty?
I could barely get my hands around all that booty. I saw someone who looked like you just before my booty was pinched. I used to love warming my booty in this place, but now I have no booty at all.
So if I understand this correctly, you wouldn't turn down some new booty, even if it came wrapped in dirty, old canvas.
Are you kidding me? Everyone wants more booty, no matter what package it comes in. And I'd much rather be playing with my booty than guarding this old cannon to really know where to find the best booty.
Don't get me wrong, I'm all for an innuendo joke, but my God, the writers for this game really dragged that joke out, didn't they? I mean, it could have just been me, but yeah, ha ha ha, booty joke. I got, you know, the first 2 or 3 okay, but my goodness, they really were like, huh? Do you get it? Do you get it? And especially when the quest is called Go Chase Some Booty as well. I think they were just trying a little too hard with this joke. I mean, at least they're kind of self-aware, because the last pirate for the booty to get through this level kind of... SpongeBob calls him out, at least. Oh God, what is this?
You there! Stand fast and identify yourself.
Let me guess, you lost some booty, you want some more booty.
How did you know?
That's the way it is with you pirates. Booty this, booty that. Just stand aside and let me get you some more so you'll let me use your cannon, okay?
Okay. I'll
thank
just
God.
wait for you here.
So you run around the stages and you find these booty bags, or bags of coins, and you give them to the pirates throughout the whole stage. Every time you get a cannon to go to the next section, and you get a letter every time you do get like a cannon unlocked. And then the very last section, you have to do this really awkward thread the needle shoot through these cannons. It looks super awkward for me, but you know what? I hate to say it. After a little bit of timing, I nailed it in the first shot. I was pretty impressed with myself, I'm not going to lie. And yeah, we got the last letter ready to beat the stage. This was going to be it. Everything was going to wrap up, hopefully. This was it. We're going to find out what happens once you get all the treasures of the Curse of the Flying Dutchman. That's what I would be saying, though. But I have to say, I feel like I got the Curse of the Flying Dutchman myself because the classic happened. After doing all of that, no issues, we get the goddamn disc read error. This is a real sneaky stage as well, because even with my precaution saving, you have to go through the entire level. It's all one massive instance. There's no loading screens to different sections. So, yeah, I had to go from cannon to cannon to get all the way to the end section again, where that last letter was to get the treasure. And when you do get to do the treasure minigame, you have to go all the way through level again to get to that point where the little bee was. It's quite a pain in the butt, but at least we loaded this mini treasure game and we found the picture of, I think, the Dutchman's mother to get all 7 treasures. And thank goodness it didn't glitch or freeze up. It loaded to the final stage where I could save the game and we could take on the final section and level. Oh man, I'm a bit of relief and all for the best, hey? Before we can finally take on the Dutchman, there's one thing we need to do, and that is gather up all our friends. And they're hidden all along the boat. It's like a hide and seek. Gather them all, and then eventually they're all grouped up in a lovely little ship together, safe and sound. And now, truly, the final boss was to be faced. Yep, this game does have one. We've got to take on the Flying Dutchman after saving all our friends. He doesn't really care about all the friends being saved. He's just going to take us on himself. That be it. We started all of this, so he's going to end it all by just capturing us. SpongeBob is a little bit cocky, to say the least. He's read that, you know, anti-curse book, and he seems pretty confident that he's not going to get screwed over. That is until the narrator says that his facts aren't always true. Yep, you're only partially immune to the Captain's Curse, actually, SpongeBob. So, yeah, now that we've riled up the Flying Dutchman, we've got to do what's best and take him on, one-on-one. Let's see how we do. For a final fight, it isn't actually overly that difficult, and it's quite fair as well. You've got to try and avoid the Flying Dutchman shooting these, like, beams, and then he conveniently drops these bombs. So yeah, you are going to be using these, grab these, throwing them at him to damage himself. It was very easy to work out, and even when I took damage, I was getting like my pants back. So of all things, this fight's very fair. The fight gets a little bit more tough. There's some ads later on during it all, but even the ads aren't really that bothersome. Just keep running around in circles, and for a final boss fight in a kid's game, it's a fair and, you know, quite enjoyable one, honestly. And when the bombs drop multiple times, you just keep going. The last one was a little bit awkward, but we finally got the hitbox of it, threw it at his ass, and boom! And just to finish things off, SpongeBob does a classic Ghostbusters-style capture on the Flying Dutchman to seal his fate where it all began. Get back in that bottle, baby. Oh yeah. And with all of that, we can finally celebrate with our friends. We beat him, we caught him, and we're going to escape out of this curse. We all celebrate, and yeah, Mr. Krabs has said food is available and we can feast like kings back at the Krusty Krab. But the problem is, it's coming out of our paychecks. Good old Mr. Krabs. But I wasn't fully going to say this game was beat when I streamed this until I saw the goddamn credit load. And I prayed that there wasn't going to be one last goddamn disc read issue to occur to that final sweet moment. I hesitated, I still waited. And with all of that happening, there it was. We had beaten game number 8. Beaten and completen. 8 hours, 39 minutes. Honestly, that was a super inflated time for this one due to the disc read issues. I think this is about a 6-hour-long game, really. It's quite a short game, actually. You could get it done quite quickly. And I'm not going to judge the game on disc read issues. I'll let you guys in on something. I'm about... Today, as a recording, I've done 97 games. This is like the only time this is such a huge problem with disc reads. Never happens again, so definitely an issue with the hardware I had at the time. The fat PS2 that I was using was an issue. But the game's okay. It's a simple collectathon platformer with licensed characters, and it all works well. The voice actors are all there. The platforming's a little bit jank, it's a little bit rough around the edges sometimes, but in all, it's a good overall platformer, and I'm sure some of you played this as kids and loved it. I can't judge it for my technical issues. I think it's an alright game. Definitely worth a check out if you love a platformer, especially if you love SpongeBob. A solid game all around, so apart from tech issues, give it a go if you want, guys. It's great. So that's another video done, and it's time to wrap up with our streamer spotlight to begin with. And today I'm going to give it to the lovely Sir Whale Gaming, who I've met recently on Twitch. He is doing the entire GameCube library, collecting and beating every game on real hardware. He's such a lovely dude. He's already pretty deep into his challenge as well. Over 80 games in. Congrats to the dude there so far. Lovely, laid-back guy, very super friendly, and I do this just for reasons that I believe these people deserve the views out there. They deserve the company, and I believe you should check them out. All working hard on console challenges and really putting the time, effort, and everything else to make, you know, a console challenge feel like a console challenge, you know? So, thanks to Whale Gaming. It's nice to meet you, dude, and thanks for being a part of the challenge community and working hard. Please check him out, guys. He's such a cool dude. And yeah, he's 6th gen as well. 6th gen bros to the end. Also, we just played SpongeBob, Whale, see. There's a connection, people, see. I do try and link these together. I'm clever like that. I can't always forget to thank you guys that are the ones watching these videos and supporting one way or another. As always, you can join my Discord if you feel like it. There's a community of us that talk about PS2 games, other games, and just a friendly lot of people that enjoy all things gaming and the console challenge, including it. Also, I've got my Twitch stream at the bottom. If you want to watch the live streams, we're a lot further in than these video reviews. I've just hit game number 98, so I'm getting close to game 100. But if you enjoy the video reviews, just please enjoy watching these. Whatever the reason, you're here and you're appreciating my time, and I appreciate your time too. And finally, what is game number 9? It is a game based on an anime franchise involving boxing. It is a game that caught me by surprise and honestly a bit of a sleeper hit for me. Just to say a few things about this game. It is Victorious Boxers. If you've never heard of it, wait till you see the video next week. It's pretty good, I'm going to say that. But besides that, guys, thank you for watching another episode in the PS2 Collection Challenge. See you next time.